Hey guys and welcome! Today I will show you my best setups for the sniper rifles of Battlefield 2042 and as usual explain why I chose the different attachments. But first of all, a few general things to sniping and the sniper rifles. I usually say at this point that I have my main setup in the first slot of the plus menu and then a long range or close combat setup in the second slot. And that's because I switch attachments quite often during a match to adjust to different situations. But for the sniper rifles, I don't do this. The only thing I switch every now and again are the scopes, but mainly for really long shots if I want to counter a sniper on the edge of the map. But the rest always stays the same, and this is for a reason of course. Because when sniping, your muscle memory for turning, aiming, aim leading and even the time it takes to chamber the next bullet is much more important than with any other weapon. And constantly switching attachments would completely mess this up and make it even harder to learn sniping and handle these rifles. So for the snipers, you should find the loadout that fits your playstyle and stick to it. And the more you play and get used to this setup, the better you will be and the easier it will be for you to handle the weapon on every range. Another thing you should know, which is always present but more important for sniper rifles, is that all scopes with more than 4x zoom will have scope glint. So the Raven 4 time that is available for almost all weapons is the last scope you can play to remain unseen. Everything above the 6x, 8x and 10x scope will have scope glint and give away your position. That's the reason why I always have one of these low zoom scopes in my loadouts, in case I want to stay hidden. And something else that really helps me with sniping in Battlefield 2042 is reducing the sensitivity for zoom scopes. Normally you set your soldier aim sensitivity, which is then a percentage of the normal sensitivity you have set. So an aim sensitivity of 90 means that you have 90% of your normal sensitivity when aiming down sights. For me, this is set to 70. But in addition, I also set the aim sensitivity for all scopes with 6x and more to 80. And this adds to your already existing sensitivity reduction. So for zoom scopes, I have 80% of 70% of my normal sensitivity. 80% works well for me, but try out what works best for you. Maybe it's better for you to stick to the default 100. But if you should have problems with precise aiming when using sniper rifles, you should try to reduce this value until it feels better for you. Another tip I can give you that I'm using for years already in different shooter games is to set the hold breath or steady scope button to your aim down sights button, which is the right mouse button for me on PC or the left trigger when I'm playing on console. This has the effect that in the moment you aim down sights, your soldier will automatically hold breath and you won't have to toggle or hold any other button as well. If you want to try that out, you can change the setting in the options and then either controller or mouse and keyboard, then on foot and scroll down to zoom. That's where you can find the steady scope setting. In addition to the sniper rifles, I would recommend to go with the G57 pistol and set it to burst fire so you can carry a reliable weapon for close range with you. If you want to know more about my G57 setup and how to use it, check the video in the info box. But now let's head over to the first sniper rifle, which is the SWS-10. And I gotta be honest, it took me quite a while to find a decent setup for this one. I was experimenting a bit with a close quarter and a long range setup, but at the end the one in between worked best in most situations. So I decided to go with the 6x scope, the standard issue extended magazine, the rattlesnake grip and the long barrel. The 6x scope is my default scope on all sniper rifles because it works best for me and has a very clear crosshair, but I also have the Ghost Hybrid in the second slot in case I don't want to get seen with the scope glint. The 8x scope is only a backup for some of the rare moments where an enemy sniper is so far away that I can barely see them with the 6x. The standard issue extended is the most versatile magazine in my opinion, comes with a bit higher ammo capacity compared to the normal one, but a slightly longer reload time. But that's not too much of a problem here, since you usually have enough time to reload as a sniper. In addition, I always carry armor-piercing bullets with me, just in case there's a vehicle that needs some attention. If you want to play a bit more aggressive with this rifle, you can also try the close combat rounds, but the damage drop-off on range is pretty high, so that's why I didn't choose them at the end. Same for the high power rounds. I just haven't had the feeling that they added any great advantage to the weapon. The rattlesnake grip is my go-to grip anyhow, so I chose it here again, cause it gives me more accuracy when moving, what I mostly do to avoid getting hit by other snipers. If you are a more static player, go with the LWG or Cobra grip instead. The bipod is not really useful in my opinion, at least not when you do the steady scope setting I mentioned before, cause the bipod would only help you with this. The recoil reduction that is also mentioned doesn't have that much of an impact for sniper rifles, since your fire rate is so slow that there's no recoil to control that would really affect your accuracy. For the barrel, I went with the extended barrel to add a bit more range and projectile velocity to the weapon, so it's easier to hit moving targets on range and I won't have to lead my aim that much. For a more aggressive playstyle, you can also try the shortened barrel that gives you a higher fire rate but on the loss of range and projectile velocity. Or you go with one of the heavy suppressors that will hide you completely from the minimap when shooting. But this is only useful for close and mid-range as the damage reduction is really high. Which one of the two heavy suppressors you use doesn't matter, they both work the same way. Next up is the DXR-1 and in my opinion this is the best sniper rifle of the game. It feels heavy when shooting and deals a bit more damage than the SWS-10, even though the reload speed and fire rate is a bit lower. Also, there are not that many attachments available to customize the weapon, and it will always stay a long-range rifle and can't be set up for more close-range combat like the SWS. In my setup, I went with the 6x scope, the standard issue extended magazine, and the extended barrel. For the underbarrel, there are no other attachments available than the default bipod. The 6x scope again, for the same reason as on the SWS, it has a decent zoom and a clear crosshair. For really long range, I also have the 8x equipped here. The 10x zoom is a scope I never use, mostly because I don't like its crosshair. For the magazine, the standard issue extended feels like the most versatile again, and in addition I also have the armor-piercing bullets equipped. I tried the high power rounds here as well, but also came to the conclusion that they didn't add much advantage to the rifle. The extended barrel adds a little more range and projectile velocity, but on a lower rate of fire, and if you don't want this, it's probably better to stick to the factory barrel. The normal suppressors don't make much sense in my opinion because they will still get you spotted on the minimap within a certain range, but already reduce your firepower. And the other attachments like muzzle brakes or compensators that would usually reduce the weapon's recoil are not very helpful here as well. Again, because the rate of fire is so low that your weapon will be back in its normal position anyhow before you have even chambered the next bullet. So there's no recoil to control like you would have with a fully automatic weapon. And the last one of the sniper rifles is the NTW-50, the high caliber anti-material rifle that also works pretty well against infantry. There's not many attachments to choose here, even less than for the DXR, but there are still a few tips I can give you. For my setup, I chose the 6x scope again, but here I also switch a lot to the M22 3.5 because of the faster aim down sight speed and the missing scope glint. Also, the weapon is not really made for long range since the bullet drop is really high and the projectile velocity very low, but it works well on mid or even close range. As ammo types, there are only two available, the normal anti-material and the high power anti-material. If you mainly fight against infantry, the normal rounds are perfect, while against vehicles, the high power ammunition is much more effective. It has a lower amount of bullets per magazine and an even lower reload speed, but the damage it deals against light and heavy vehicles is much higher. So I switch between them quite a lot during the match. Against infantry, the high power rounds deal less damage, so that just works on close range and as a last resort. For the barrel and underbarrel attachments, there are only the default factory setups available, so nothing to change here. And that's it for today. I hope this video helps you to find the best sniper setup for your playstyle, and if you want to learn more about the different attachments like barrel or ammunition types, be sure to check out the two videos I linked. And if you found this video helpful, be sure to leave a like or a comment and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more content like this. Until then, thanks for watching. I'm the Catwoman and you are awesome.